Hi everybody, welcome back to the cabin. It's a perfect day out here today. It was cold this morning, but it's starting to warm up quickly. Sunny, dry. I've got a few days of dry weather, so I'm gonna get a few things done. I was supposed to be out on a canoe trip right now, and I didn't think, so this video that I'm making right now, that you're probably watching on Friday, was supposed to be a fishing trip video. But that'll be probably 2 weeks from now, because I've had to postpone it. And I had to change my route a little bit as well. The reason I had to postpone it is because the lakes that I was headed to are up in the even higher country than what I'm in here. It's the headwaters of some cold trout streams, trout rivers, and the lakes up there are still frozen, a couple of them at least. So I'm going to start the trip in a few more days from now. So I just wanted to show you a few things before I get on to the sauna. I'm going to work on the door today. Cali's restless, fetching, and breathing heavy in the camera, if you're wondering what that sound in the background is. I wanted to show you, so the longhouse you watched a couple of weeks ago, me and the guys building the frame of that longhouse. The next step in that is harvesting enough bark to cover it. I mentioned in that video that we would be using bark from the ash trees that are dying here on my land. And I was worried, and the guys were worried that we weren't going to have enough bark, so I've asked them to look around in the areas that they live to see if they can find other bark sources. In the meantime, though, I went for a walk on parts of the land here that I don't normally get to because they're wetter, and I'd like to show you what I found. The barred owls are breeding here. I've got them. I've got at least one breeding pair here, as well as another breeding pair where my outpost camp is, or going to be. So it's interesting to hear them in the daytime like this. It's about 9:30, almost 10 o'clock. And if you watch that Longhouse video when I was down in the low area, they were hooting away there as well. That sounds like it's the male. Then often you'll hear the female respond to it, but I won't hear that this morning. So this little strip of low spot right here, which is right behind the longhouse, on the closer to the south, well, about 2/3 down the property line to the south of the cabin. Anyway, all the low spots essentially on my land. So right here, this kind of joins another little pondish, seasonal pond right here, right beside the longhouse essentially. And then as you go down the hill, I've got my whole low area where it's taking the cedars out. So all the low areas essentially have these big ash trees, and every one of them is dying. So that emerald ash borer is killing them all off. So the dilemma was, I knew there was some on the property. There's a few down there that I've shown you, and the one that Doug already cut down that we used for the ridgepole, plus some others that I've cut over the winter for other projects. The staircase actually going up to the loft in the cabin is ash. So I knew in every little low spot I had a couple of ash trees, but I didn't realize how big this swath of them was. So the issue is the amount of bark that we need for the longhouse to cover it completely, and then a future building as well. So we have 28 feet, I think, pretty much from like all the way from the ground all the way over to the other side. So 28 feet, and the building is just over 20 feet long, say 22 feet long, which would mean that if we had bark from a tree like that, that's at least 2 feet wide, we would need 28 feet in height times, what's that, 11 trees. Is that it? Yeah, it's only 11 trees. 11 times 2, 22 feet. Thing is, so 11 trees, but I wasn't sure we could get 28 feet. So let's assume we could only get a maximum of 14 feet. That would be 22 trees, and then allow for extra and rips and filling in gaps and stuff. So probably like 30 trees. I thought that was an awful lot of trees to find enough bark from, and enough trees that were dying or in poor shape, yet not so dead that the bark was dry and unusable. So I'm relieved to see that we have all the, I found more than enough. I found probably 40 or 50 ash trees now. Now I wouldn't typically want to cut them down even though they're dying anyway, because they do provide wildlife habitat, but I have other trees here that are actually better wildlife habitat, including some old dead maples. I got dead birch trees like this one here, yellow birches, hemlocks that have cavities in them, so there's lots of wildlife habitat. The ash, this is the end of the ash era, like all the trees in North America. It sounds like around the world, all the ash trees are being killed by this emerald ash borer, invasive species. So unfortunately we're going to lose it. So what I'd like to do is cut all these down, cut them into lumber length, and then store them, get them elevated off the ground and protected so that I can use them for, I could probably use them almost for the rest of my life on woodworking projects, and even give some away. Like ash, ash is a beautiful wood, nice straight grain. It's really hard, heavy, dense, it's good firewood, so it has a lot of good uses. So it's unfortunate that we're losing it, but in the meantime I'm going to harvest it and utilize it. So that's the cycle of life. Unfortunately, that's the end of this species, probably for the short term at least. So hopefully some survive and develop a resistance to the bug, but it's not looking good. So using the resources that I have without depleting other resources is the best thing I can do. So taking the bark and utilizing that, which typically just rots into the ground, is unusable for us. It's usually what happens, but found a good project for it, and then I've got lots of uses for the hardwood afterwards. So that's what we're going to be doing. And the reason I'm showing you this right now is that we're not we're not working on that right now. Some of the guys can only come up on the weekend. And with this canoe trip that I'm going on, or the fishing trip, and working on other projects, we're not going to get to it probably till, I would say, looks like it's going to be the first week of June when the guys get back up here, and that's what we'll concentrate on, getting the bark and cladding the exterior of that longhouse. See all the balsam firs right here. The moose came through here last night or this morning, eating the tops of these things off, and as they're browsing on them, just pulling on them, they're not very strong, these little balsams, and they're just snapping right off. So that's the longhouse right there in the background. You can see that all throughout the property. It's been like that since I got it. You can see here where it actually, browsing a couple of branches. Most of them are older, like that's an older browse. There's a few of them like that, so they're only taking a few bites from each tree, but they're breaking them off, unfortunately. So that's why in this forest I got so many trees that are just cut off at moose height, and all of the maple saplings all over the place, like sap on me throughout my entire land. It's all kind of sheared off at this height, and that's from the deer and the moose. Especially, I think 2 years ago, it looked like a couple of them might have wintered or spent a lot of time in here, and they just sheared everything off. And then what happens is everything below where they bite off gets really dense, really thick as new branches come on. So unfortunate, but I'm gonna get a trail camera out here. I've got to see if I can capture some of these moose on film here by the longhouse. Kind of cool to see the moose in front of the longhouse.